Metal has begun.
Looking all around at the
All right, guys, welcome to Learning Fives. My name is Blatchboy, and I am joined here tonight by Xline, who still needs to unmute his mic, but we'll get there. We are into
How's it
Champ
going?
Select. Hello. We're into Champ Select for game number 1 between Team Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. Some interesting names. We have gone through the pro draft, so we are going to be showing picks and bans here, hopefully in a little bit of an accelerated fashion. We shall see. But, well, let's talk about some of these bans real quick.
So the early bans were using supports, Coin and Ardent abusing supports. First round of bans had 3 supports with Sona, Janna, and Soraka, who are all really abusive right now in the bottom lane. Maokai, who is abusive in both jungle and top, and actually seen in support some as well. And Twitch is just a really strong AD carry right now. These are all pretty general bans and kind of to be expected in a format where there's no target bans, which is what the coaches agreed on for this match. So not a huge surprise on any of those, really.
Yeah, everything's pretty standard for the most part here, but there are a couple non-standard picks. Jarvan, maybe a little bit iffy in the top lane. You know, you see him here and there, but not super frequently. Mordekaiser, you never ever see, and we're going to be seeing one in the top lane here this game from Wonderlust.
Yeah, Wonderlust, looking at his OpGG amount of Mordekaiser. Jarvan, I think, is obviously a little more meta, as you mentioned. He gives really strong engage potential, damage. If he fits into a couple different team comps. The Aatrox is a placeholder ban here for anyone who's wondering. It's just the standard meme ban. It's a skipped ban on their part. Orianna, also very strong mid laner right now. She doesn't really do anything poorly. She's just really strong across the board. So again, in a format without target ban, she's a really strong ban.
Yeah.
There was some contention on whether or not Swain was actually a target ban because he's not really meta right now. And the opposing mid laner Yavin does play a fair amount of Swain, but he did get Malzahar play as well as one of his other comfort picks there in the mid.
Yeah, so let's touch on this mid lane a little bit. Now, we've gotten through the first couple picks. These mid laners are going to be a very big point of contention, I feel like. Taliyah and Malzahar are both very impactful. Do you have anything that you really want to emphasize before we get too much further into the pick bans here?
Yeah, so both these mid laners are extremely strong at shoving, and especially is really shove potential. An extremely potent gank tool. Malzahar obviously has the space aids and cancer puppies that push the lane all day, every day. So, and he's got a really strong pick potential with his. I think both of them fit into the team comps of what they want to do. Malzahar has a lot of pick potential on his team along with Jarvan and Warwick. But they also have team fighting potential as well. They got a decent amount of AoE. Nami gives them really good disengage and Trisk there. On the other side, Taliyah gives you a lot of AoE damage. She does give you some pick potential as well, but they have a little bit more of a poke composition. Kind of siege towers with Gragas just throwing barrels and turret, and Jinx being able to raise turrets quickly. They can certainly get some picks as well. They just don't quite have the same composition as the other side. Those really impactful ultimates for the picks.
Yeah, so, I mean, you just touched a little bit on the ADCs being able to melt turrets really effectively, which, if either of these get ahead, it's going to be a very significant snowballing factor for either of these compositions. Where do you see this lane going, and what kind of plays do you think we need to see in the bottom lane to secure the victory for one team or another?
I mean, both of these AD carries, like you said, snowbally hyper carries. In terms of the laning, both these supports have the playmaking potential to engage and disengage. So honestly, it's kind of a toss-up in my opinion. I don't think either side of this lane has advantage. Lots of damage, lots of mobility. and disengage. So it'll be interesting to see how.
Yeah, definitely. So, are there any big things you want to bring to attention with the compositions overall? We have a little bit of time left before we jump into the loading screen here.
Yeah, we touched on the compositions a little bit. They're both fairly proficient at team fighting. Neither team really has push potential unless really far ahead. But either way, usually if you have just coming in and just start a team fight and create a ton of chaos with a ton of damage. In terms of how those team fights are going to go, um, the Malzahar and Warwick are really to try to get a pick and start a team fight and get a disadvantageous fight, or advantageous for them rather. Whereas the other team kind of just wants to poke a little bit before the fight starts, so they might prioritize like an Mordekaiser. Honestly, I don't see him enough to really say exactly how in terms of the team fighting and the split pushing. I suppose he could split push if he gets ahead, but that's not something. In terms of jungle priority early, I would say the top lane probably has a fair amount of snowball potential. Bot mentioned also has a fair amount of snowball potential. Mid lane, I don't know that you're really going to have a lot of kill pressure there unless someone makes a mistake. So I would probably focus on bottom lane pathing for either of these junglers. But you could see Warwick potentially trying to invade on Gragas early. It's kind of interesting to see. Both these junglers are also not autofill. They're both substitutes. So it'll be interesting to see how the communication works between substitute junglers and the rest of the team.
Yeah, definitely, guys. But the spectator delay is now ticking down. We're going to throw it back to a break with some music, and we will be right back when we load into game number 1 here between Team Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. Don't go anywhere.
So I said no, it was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you do that to me? I killed, I know, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe you're trolling. No, it was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you do that to me? I killed, I know, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe you're trolling.
Wait a minute!
So I said no, it was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you do that to me? I killed, I know, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe you're trolling. No, it was supposed to be my pentakill. Why did you do that to me? I killed, I know, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe you're trolling.
Alright everyone, we are on to the Rifter game number 1 here. Once again with Team Circular Damage versus the Bitter Onions. And yeah, here we go. Both these teams rolling out. Red team rolling as a group though. They're packing into a bush looking for a death brush here potentially, or maybe they'll go for an invade. We will see. Time will tell.
It's always risky when you have one team going back and the other kind of going fan out. If you're not careful when you're fanning out, you can definitely get picked off. So that's going to happen here. So they are going for the invade.
They are, and while they're taking... Oh no, Aurelian Soul Food is going to spot out the enemy team, but he's going to get knocked up and just barely escape by buffering that that rocket jump right in the middle of all that CC. So he does get out pretty much unscathed. He loses half his health, but he will be able to go back to base without too much of an issue, hopefully. He's just
before X lines a time traveler for calling 5 minutes back and one person gets kicked off. But no, he was able to get out with the rocket jump and not burn any summoners, so
yeah,
not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, that's the really important part. Now this Taric, incredibly gankable, because he did burn that flash trying to land the flash dazzle, and it just didn't quite pan out. Now Wonderless unknowingly walking past the enemy team, stealing the red buff away, so they didn't get information technically on where Magic Conch started, and they don't know where he didn't start either.
When they invaded bottom side, like to see. I think they had a pretty good idea that he was not starting, and then Mordekaiser didn't really get a ward on either side of the jungle. So he's getting cheesed here.
Here's that gank coming through. Magic Conch getting quite a lot of damage onto Wonderlust. He already burned his flash. He pathed well enough that he forced Magic Conch to path back around for a moment, but yeah, he does burn that summoner, gets chunked to about half, already has to pop one of his refillable potion charges, so he will just be able to recover in that lane pretty comfortably right now. But he is...
interesting to see if the... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he is taking quite the beating in the top lane though, and these trades not going his way. This is a very rough start for this Mord.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting to see if the Gragas goes for the... Because obviously the Warwick showed in top lane. So Gragas would have the potential to go and take that red buff, basically uncontested, unless Warwick paths directly down to it. But it looks like that's not the case. He's just going for the raids clear here to hit level 3. And then, I don't know if he's looking for a gank top or the scuttle, but it is warded, so I don't know if he's going to have a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, that is in fact a control ward that I believe was picked up by Magic Conch early on. So he bought that control ward at the very beginning of the game instead of a bunch of potions, because Warwick doesn't really need the potions. You generally see him even go Rejuve Bead instead due to his built-in passive and sustainability in the jungle thanks to that. So doesn't really need that extra health. Threw that into a control ward, which has now already provided a little bit of value to Panda in the top lane, as he is still controlling this wave here and standing very far up, but he's pretty much completely safe as long as he keeps his eyes on the map.
So we saw Gragas path towards the top side, and obviously that was warded out. It also gives Warwick and the rest of Team Circular Damage knowledge of where Gragas is. Warwick knows he's free to take his red buff uncontested, and that Gragas didn't already take it. And if he wants to path down bottom side for a gank, he can. Obviously, the Tri-Brush is warded, but he knows that he's not going to get counter ganked there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, well, not quite as much security, but same tune in the mid lane here for the side of the Bitter Onions, as they're able to get an uncontested gank from Shilson in the mid lane, and that is first blood onto Yavin already. And this is a
really
great
well
start. Yeah, Wonderlust. Okay, we're good.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say the Talia laid down the E and flashed that. But there was a really good flash E from Gragas to body slam him into the E from Talia and just immediately blew him up. Malzahar was a little low on mana, so and obviously fairly low on HP even before that gank. So wasn't really in a position to scrap with Talia there, but just kind of walked right over the E there. So probably would have been better flash that, but hindsight's 20/20. So
yeah, definitely. Now oh man, Chimera is going in down bottom with Rem, and they're able to get a decent trade onto Asuna, but not too much achieved in the end, just a bit of damage, and that'll be healed up pretty quickly by this Nami. And it is worth noting that in the wake of those 3 early bans on Coin and Ardent Sensor rushing supports, we still get a Nami, we still get to see that build come through. And Asuna, well, might be getting picked off here, taken incredibly low. Aurelian Soul Food has to be respected on this Trist, however, as that attack speed from his Q is very respectable and gives him quite the boost in damage, so they can't quite go for that kill. We are seeing...
Nami was taken in the second rotation of the picks, which is kind of surprising because both the supports are Nami mains. And without target bans, you think that would be a really high priority contested picks, but we actually had both the 80 carries first picks.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue with first picking Trist with how much success she's been seeing recently. It is still a little bit risky, I feel like, just from personal preference. I feel like it is a little bit dangerous to go and first pick an ADC still, but Trist is definitely one that you would want on the table for your team as soon as possible. And, well, so far it's doing pretty much alright. Now Panda fighting with Wonderlust in the top lane. Yeah, that is everything popped onto this Jarvan, and he is going to escape without having to burn his flash, Wonderlust burning his to try and get in. So one flash for nothing with Wonderlust trying to be the initiator there. You can kind of see the weakness of the champion when that type of trade goes off, when that kind of trade happens in a lane so quickly like that.
Yeah, if you burn everything, including casualty recalls at 50% HP, it feels pretty bad, man.
Yeah.
The other thing is, again, Mordekaiser is once again flashless. So, like we talked about in the lobby, that's kind of a high priority lane to gank in terms of snowball potential. So, we'll see if Warwick takes advantage of that, or if the junglers are going to keep playing around mid, as they have been fairly mid-centric this game.
Yeah, and it really doesn't seem like a bad idea, honestly. If you can get... Both these mid laners are champions that can and will roam around the map and push their leads to other lanes. We talked about that a bit in Champ Select as well, so if you can enable a fairly strong mid laner relative to the rest of the team, then that can pretty much outright win you the game if they are able to push their advantage around the rest of the map very effectively. So it does make a lot of sense. Champions are there. We'll have to see if the players can actually pull it off. And, well, the junglers still have to put a bit more pressure there, as we will see them clash here very likely.
Looks like they're going for it.
Yeah, that is the Nethergrass coming down, and the Flash Fear from Magic Conch, and his ultimate Duress as well. Now Yavin still going in, Seismic Shove back to disengage the fight a little bit, but Yavin is just walking in.
Yavin disconnects.
Turret. It didn't look like he turned around. He hasn't disconnected yet, so I think that may have just been an overchase, possibly a misclick there. Something went wrong.
That's the one where you type unlucky in all chat.
Yeah, I think that was the greed. The just couple pixels. Okay, here's the pause.
Oh, we have a pause for lag. Okay.
Yeah, a couple pixels off was Radiclus from any of Yavin's spells, I feel. So, okay, let's take a step back. These junglers focusing mid quite a lot. Now, 2 kills to Shilsin and 2 assists to Radiclus. And he also has the very big CS lead as well. This is a fantastic position for this Taliyah.
Yeah, I think they actually could have pulled that gank off just fine. I think Warwick should have actually held on to his ult a little longer. You saw him use it at point blank range. The Flash Fear was fine. They could have kept DPSing until Taliyah flashed, and then he immediately follows her flash with his ult because she no longer has an escape mechanism. And I think that would have locked down the kill. Not 100% sure, but I think that probably would have been a little bit more effective use of the skills in terms of mitigating the gap closer or the escape with the flash. So maybe a little bit of a misplay there. Who knows? Maybe Taliyah still would have gotten away, but I definitely think they had the potential for that kill there. Like we talked about, there's a huge pick potential with the 3 ults from the 2 solos and the Warwick here. So If they can chain those together right, they can definitely delete people.
Yeah, definitely. And this top lane, a big struggle for Wonderlust so far. He's been through the fire this game already, having that flash burned early off the back of that cheesy level 2 gank, but he did survive, and he still hasn't died yet. Kind of flipped the lane on his head for a moment, but wasn't quite able to quite secure the kill. Do you think that Shilsin will be looking to put some pressure up there and try to take this 2-0 Gragas and really make the lane for the Mordekaiser? Because it seems like he can kind of hold his own, and he feels like he can call the shots, but he can't quite get the secure lead that he wants to really take this game further.
Yeah, I don't know. At this point, if I was the Gragas, I'd probably be looking to let the Mordekaiser just kind of farm it out. Because even though he's been flashless and a little behind most of the game, he hasn't died yet, and he's not too far behind in CS. He's only down about 8 CS, and I can't really see right now if he has more left to get in terms of the wave or what the wave position's like. But he's not that far behind. So I would probably look at prioritizing bottom lane. We talked earlier about if you're able to get the mid lane ahead, and then they can kind of like roam and spread their influence throughout the map. That's obviously really strong. The main job of a jungler obviously is to get their lanes ahead. So if you can get one ahead, and then you've got two people able to roam and help out another lane, that can be incredibly impactful. So we may still see the continued pressure in mid. I was not expecting to have a lot of kill potential in this lane. Clearly, I was mistaken in that analysis early. But when you put the amount of emphasis that both these junglers have on the mid lane, you're definitely going to see some people dying. So
yeah, but we are back live onto the Rift once again. Whatever issues Yavin has had seems to have been sorted now, hopefully. And yeah, we're just going to basically pick up where we left off. So Wonderlust still duking it out in this top lane and just trying to get whatever bits of damage he can, but some of these trades still looking really nasty and not tilted in his favor at all. It must have been really rough for him to get into that advantageous position that we saw a little bit earlier. I'll have to see how the rest of that pans out. Right now, bot lane, though, looking to receive a gank here from Shilsin. Rem going in with the Dazzle. A little bit of a poor angle there to try and counter that rocket jump, and that will be completely disengaged.
I think that was a little telegraphed. I don't think... no, there is a ward. Okay, they had a ward to see it coming. I was looking at the mini-map and saw the red ward on top of it.
Yep.
But it's interesting that Gragas is... it looks like he's going Echoes rather than the Cinder build. Cinderhulk is definitely the flavor of the month on Gragas right now.
Yeah.
Runic Echoes can still output a fair amount of damage on Gragas. A lot of people really underestimate that.
Ooh, Yavin getting juggled back by that Seismic Shove in the mid lane. And that's the Thunderlord's proc just off of autos from Radiclus. So an impressive amount of damage and very secure, confident trading from him on this Taliyah. Even though he's not quite controlling the wave as well as he'd like all the time, he's still winning these trades pretty decisively and holding about a 20 CS lead in this lane so far.
Yeah, I do like that Yavin did unleash the Cancer Puppies there to kind of shove the lane up before. If he hadn't done that, Taliyah would be on the turret right now, getting damage on it. They might even call Gragas over to try to get more pressure on it. As it is, Gragas doing a little bit of counter jungling. Taliyah may be looking for a roam down bottom with their ult. We could see a 4-man dive bottom here.
Yeah, they are just pulling the trigger. They saw the control word, but they don't really care all that much. Unfortunately, the distance a little bit too much to try to overcome here. And, well, they're not going to be able to quite shut out the vision in the Tribrush right now, and Taliyah will just go back to her lane. Radiclus resetting, and that dive was thwarted, actually, which is fortunate for Aurelion Soulfood and Asuna.
I do think they have the right idea, though. I think trying to play 4-man around the bottom in the dragon.
Oh, actually, Wonderlust, hate to interrupt you here, getting ganked in the top lane. There's the flash and the follow-up ultimate duress. Or endless duress? I can't remember the name, but Magic Conk, he's incredibly low. Wow, Panda just completely getting taken out by the healing and that shield from Wanderlust, just slightly underestimating this Mordekaiser. Oh! And the ult from across the map! Chimera, what a snipe!
Oh, that was really well played by actually both teams. We were talking about earlier about how Warwick didn't hold the ult until after the flash. That time he waited for Mordekaiser to flash.
Oh, might have to hold that thought again, as there's now an engage in the bottom lane, but it will be disengaged by the tidal wave. Okay, back to your point.
No, I was just saying the Warwick held the ult for after the flash this time, but unfortunately they kind of underestimated the damage and the healing from Mordekaiser. Wanderlust, who is a Mordekaiser, I don't want to say main, but he has a lot of games on Mordekaiser. Definitely a comfort pick. Was probably doing his way under the turret there, during that. And then obviously Jinx with the hyphy plays and the Twitch clip there with the cross map rocket.
Oh yeah, definitely. But now we might be seeing the tables turn here a bit for Wanderlust, as there is a gank from Shilson. The ult not quite where they wanted it, and they're not going to be able to stop that flag and drag combo over the wall. Panda does escape pretty much unscathed, and Aurelion Soulful, oh, the dazzle just short. If that had come through, that would have been a very dangerous trade for him.
A good escape from Jarvan in top, holding the flash. Mordekaiser started to back, and I think he realized he wanted to push this wave out first. I think Gragas actually should have helped, just because we know Jarvan just used teleport. So if they had shoved that a little earlier, he would have been gold, but now he's going to catch this wave. We do have a dragon being taken by Team Circular Damage here, since they did see the Gragas top. That is something, when you show on one side of the map, you are giving up the ability to pressure on the other side. So
yeah, and I mean, that's something that really the Warwick, out of the two junglers here, this is something that really only the Warwick can do. They took that completely safely without their ADC. Aurelion Soulfood was back in the base buying up his items, and they were completely comfortable to do that. The Warwick is still super healthy. The Nami was just there to keep him pretty safe, as safe as she could. They both had flashes available, so they were completely committed to sitting in the back of the pit. But Yavin, speaking of completely committing, flash, ignite, and the Nether Grass, but not quite enough to take down Radiclus, and neither is that Super Mega Death Rocket enough to take down Yavin.
We just saw all four summoners burned in ult there. Really aggressive by Yavin for the flash ult ignite, and it would have taken down Radiclus, but he also flashed and burned barriers. Again, it'll be interesting to see what the junglers do, knowing that there are something there.
Yeah, I think Yavin just needs to try and get the trades with the Nether Grasp onto Radiclus a little bit before he goes for an all-in. Maybe chunk him down a touch, because he doesn't seem like he's able to actually 100-0 him. And we saw it a little bit earlier with Magic Conk ganking the mid lane, and they tried to 100-0 through both the ultimates, and Talia was just able to flash out of that as well. So I think that's kind of telling of where the damage stands for this Rod of Ages first Malzahar. And I don't want to be too harsh on it. I'm not super familiar with Malzahar overall, but this is not really a build that I have seen personally, really at all with Malzahar. I favor personally the Morellonomicon, or I don't know, a little bit more damage early on.
Yeah, mid-itemization is not my strong suit, but I'm fairly confident Rod of Ages first is not common across any of the regions in pro play.
Yeah, Wanderlust is finding a bit of an uncommon fight here in the top lane area. That is Super Mega Death Rocket going a bit wide, but Wanderlust is just able to take the fight right to the doorstep of Magic Conk and Panda, and he's going to be able to take Panda down with really no trouble at all. Would have gotten Conk too if he didn't have his flash, but this is not quite done yet. There's Radiclus flanking around the side. Seismic Shove goes a little bit wide, but Wanderlust is going to be able to mop that up. No problem whatsoever. What an interesting situation. Warwick trying to solo out that Rift Herald, and getting caught out a bit there. Now Shilson looking for a gank down bottom. There's the traps on Asuna to cut her off, but they didn't commit to the dive quite yet, and now here it is. Explosive Cask in the wrong direction. Now, Tidal Wave locking everyone up under tower. There's the Cosmic Radiance to keep everyone alive. Buster Shot back under the turret, though. Aurelion Soul Food still alive, still kicking. Chimera is able to get both of the kills with that rocket overlap, though. And that is going to be enough to secure the double for this Jinx. And that is, on paper, successful dive. A little bit messy, but they did get the result they wanted. Now going to be able to take that bot turret down. Trading in the mid as well. This fight does not stop, and now Magic Conk has something to say down bottom. Infinite Duress burned onto Chimera, but not quite going to be able to take her down either. And everyone walks away unscathed on the side of the Bitter Onions down bottom, but they do not get that turret.
A little bit of a misplay on the start of the dive, and a really good disengage from the Nami Tidal Wave, but Tarek just beasting out with that clutch ulti that just absolutely turned the tables on that dive, and then Jinx able to just hunt them down with the Fish Chompers rockets, getting the one-shot 2-kill at the end for that sweet plus 600 gold, and then the speed up from her passive. Probably didn't need to flash away from the turret because of the passive, but better to be safe than sorry, so.
Yeah, oh, there's another Super Mega Death Rocket thrown mid. We'll tag Galvin again, but still no kill. No dice.
By the way, before that play down bottom, when Mordekaiser ended up getting that double kill, if you heard something in the background, that was actually the collective cheers of the entire country of Brazil. More action down bottom.
Wow, yeah, this is a big force gank coming in. A teleport from Panda, but only for a moment as he canceled it, and now they're able to just go in for this fight anyway. They're completely comfortable with this. There's no reason not to. I feel like that was a little bit of a miscommunication there on whether they should actually cancel that teleport or not. That superhero minion just saving Yavin from getting tagged by the zap there. But here comes the Weaver's Wall, cutting most of the team off, but Shilson doesn't seem to care all that much, as here's the threaded volley coming through. Talia locked up, but how much does it really matter when there's no damage to follow? Now Asuna is the focus, going to land a pretty clutch bubble with the Seismic Shove will take her down. And this bot turret will finally be falling for real this time. And that is a fantastic lead, 11-0. It hasn't even really felt like it with how close it's been in some instances, but this is a almost perfect game so far from the Bitter Onions.
Yeah, we talked about both bottom lanes having a snowball potential. This Jinx is pretty huge, and actually pretty lucky for Team Circular Damage that those last couple kills there on Nami and Malzahar, the Jinx wasn't in on for kills or assists, just because she's already snowballing pretty hard at 4-0. But yeah, it's definitely not an ideal situation. 11 and looks like they're about to even this up with a Windrake to match the one that Team Circular Damage has.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, to speak on objectives a little bit more, the Rift Herald was actually never picked up after Magic Conk was caught out by Wonderlust in that weird fight in the top river before. But here is another attempt down bottom now. Asuna goes down, and this is the Cosmic Radiance coming through. Aurelion Soul Food is the focus, just dodging out of the threaded volley, has nothing left, and is going to get smited down. Now Wonderlust falling on the top side in return, and that snaps the perfect game, unfortunately for Bitter Onions, but they are content with getting 2 more kills and that dragon, and they're going to look for a bit more, but Shilson actually going to get picked as well, a little bit greedy on that. Great play from Yavin. And
yeah, I thought Yavin was in a little bit of a dangerous spot walking into his own jungle with 4 members of Team Bitter Onion around, not knowing if it was warded or not. I did have the ward. Shilson just being a little greedy and overstaying, which would have been fine if his team was around, but since they weren't, Yavin recognized that, immediately goes for the flash, another grasp, and picks himself up a kill there. It was at a shutdown too, so ran golden experience for that. So if they're able to come back, that will definitely be a huge factor. Anytime you're ahead, the main priority should be not giving away any shutdown gold. That's a huge win condition for the team who's behind.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to overhype it or anything, but this is an upward trend, and those are the types of plays that you don't want to be making when you're ahead and that you want to be punishing if you're behind. So that is absolutely perfect. They're that's just playing to their strengths to some extent and also abusing the opponent's weaknesses, where they might overstep a bit, they might not know exactly where and when to call off a chase, to step back, to not go farm that wave alone under the enemy tier 2 turret in bottom lane with no one else around. You know, there's a lot of potential openings with really anyone below challenger in just about every game. So we shall see where this goes. It's still not looking great, but this is an upward trend.
With Bitter Onions having a lead right now, getting back to what you were saying earlier, playing to your outs, Team Circular Damage does have the ability to come back in this game. We have the giant Jinx that we touched on, but there's a lot of different ways to take a Jinx out and just delete her. We talked about the ultimates for the 2 solo lanes and the jungle from Team Circular Damage with Nethergrass, Infinite Duress, and I can't remember, Cataclysm, I think is the name of it. All of those can just delete the Jinx in the right situation if you miss positions. So, and she's a huge portion of Team Bitter Onion's damage output right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we are seeing a very AD-focused Jarvan with that Black Cleaver first, going into what seems to be a potential Ravenous Hydra, but could be a Titanic as well. Either way, still getting a significant amount of damage out of that, really. So,
I would expect Titanic. I'd be very surprised if it was Ravenous, but I guess it's always potential.
Yeah, we will see. Now, Asuna stunned up with the Dazzle under the turret, the Tidal Wave to disengage, and I mean, that is how you want to be using that ult in most situations, but that is a little bit of a panic move. Unfortunately, Asuna not in the best spot. Still not having that Ardent Sensor completed is actually fairly significant. This is really late on now. Rem is going to overstep just a touch. Chimera is the focus in the backlines, but not quite going to be falling just yet. There's the Infinite Duress, and that is a huge Super Mega Death Rocket to pick up 2 more kills. A quadra kill for Chimera. And the only member still standing is Aurelion Sofu, who is split pushing the bottom lane, but it is going to be all in vain as the team just crumbles in the mid.
So I do like the Nethergrasp to punish the Taric, who was out of position, but you have to know that that's going to kind of start a fight there. I really would have liked to see the ults for Warwick and Jarvan to be held for the Jinx. As we saw, she was basically untouched in that fight and just murdered everything and picked up a quadra, and she is absolutely massive right now. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to deal with her. Well, it's going to be impossible if she's untouched in the backline, but they do get the mid inhibitor off of it, so definitely get to capitalize off that team win. They get two turrets there and the inhibs. Actually, I had 3 because mid tier 1 was still up at that time. So lots of gold to go home and spend. Jinx has a 3 item power spike. We've got 2 items on the Talia in mid. She's still yet to die, just putting out DPS and zone control in these fights. Mordekaiser going for mostly damage in the top lane. I don't know Malzahar's typical itemization, so I'm not sure if tanky or AP is the common build on him.
All right, both teams now resetting a little bit. A fantastic landslide of a fight for Bitter Onions there in the end, but again, a bit of an upward trend relative to the absolute pit that they were dug into before for Circular Damage. Now Magiconk overstepping a little bit, Infinite Duress going wide, and now he's in an awful spot. There is that Taric ult coming through to keep everyone topped up, but it's not going to do all that much in the end. Magiconk will fall to Wonderlust, however, and that will be enough to push Circular Damage back to their base, back to their own doorstep, trying to find some sort of safety back there on their side of the map. They're trying to dig in and just turtle as best they can now, really. It's going to be difficult for them.
Team Bitter Onions probably just wants to take this Dragon Ghost and just march it down bottom. There's not really a threat of Team Circular Damage rushing down the Baron right now. which normally you don't want to focus too hard on the bottom lane at this stage of the game when Baron's up, but they have enough of a lead that they just kind of have a steamroller going on down the bottom lane here, and I think it's the correct call.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree. They call the shots here. They get to decide who's who and who does what, and they do have a ward on that Baron pit anyway, so even if there was a risk of that, they would be ready to just rush through the lane with this dragon and just go for inhibitors, go for Nexus turrets if there was no one or just a couple people there to answer. So
they were able to get the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, even in the event of a really risky Baron take from the side of circular damage, they would be prepared to make a call one way or another.
Yeah, they still were able to get the tier 2 and up.
Yep.
So still a successful push. Looks like they're probably just going to reset here, get some items, and then probably play around Baron and top tier 2 if I had to guess. They could maybe send the Mordekaiser to split push, like we were talking about earlier. I don't know if split pushing is really the strength of his. I guess it probably is if you go full AP, just because his ult is pretty powerful, and he's got a lot of like the shielding and everything like that. So that's a potential line they could take, but their team fight's strong enough that I wouldn't really fault them for just 5-man stacking for the.
Yeah, it's really, again, I feel like they kind of call the shots. They get to decide what they want to do. It's choose your own adventure for them at this point to some degree. There are still wrong calls and there are still bad calls and suboptimal calls, but I feel like they kind of do just have the pick of the litter here. They can decide to split push that Mord if they want, or selectively, or just always use him in a 5v5 situation. But now, right now, in the moment, this Baron is a threat, and they realize this, but
Blue team doesn't really have much vision around the Baron, and it's hard to
and
get it.
How much do they care? Well, they care about that much. Magic Conch walks up all alone, and he just gets deleted. Now the smite is gone, and this is a really big deal. The Baron under fire.
It's hard to get vision when you don't have it, because you could just be face check 5, and that's what we saw there, which is really unfortunate.
Yep, and Baron will fall seismic shove in the wrong direction, unfortunately, but how much does it really matter? Yavin is going to fall regardless, and he does get a decent silence down, but it's all for nothing, unfortunately. That Terrical once more will fall onto his team, and they will be able to pick up the scraps there.
Inhibitor Onion should be able to take an inhibitor off this, maybe even Nexus turret. I don't know if they can push that hard, but they have a really strong wave to that's all Baron empowered to push with, and without Malzahar to help with wave clear, this should be at least an inhibitor. Although Triss is wave clearing pretty well here.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter how well you wave clear if you get engaged on, but that works both ways. That's a huge 4-man Cataclysm into the middle of the enemy team, but the damage isn't really coming through yet. Aurelian Soul Food is the only one that's able to do anything as Yavin was still down. That's a quadra kill, actually, for Chimera. I don't know how he got all of those kills and all the chaos there, but maybe he will look for 5, as this inhibitor has fallen and Yavin is in the neighborhood. Standing there right in arm's reach. Will he go for it? That's the damage, but that's the Malzahar ult. Doesn't matter, though. Chimera will actually fall. No Penta, the greed coming through. Now, Wonderlust is going to fall as well. That is the Nether Grasp, or not quite the Nether Grasp, but rather... Oh, man, I'm just blanking on all the ability names. That Malzahar E coming through, dealing a lot of damage. Radiclus onto the Nexus turrets, taking them down one by one, brick by brick. But he's not able to do it quite fast enough.
I don't know how I feel about the 4-man going for Malzahar there on the Nexus turret, just trying to end it. I feel like it would have been safer just to use your 4 on the Nexus turrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, focusing the Nexus definitely would have been the better decision there, because even in the case of Yavin going for another grasp onto someone, whether it's the Jinx or not, he's going to be locking himself in a riskier position if you're focusing the Nexus turrets. He has to step a little bit further forward. Plus Jinx procs are passive and all these other factors come into play if you just go for the Nexus turrets there instead of greeting for that pentakill. But the game is still very secure on the side of the Bitter Onions. 10,000 gold in the lead, 25-9. A fantastic lead for them, and all they have to do is close it out. That is the last step in their journey here. They've done everything else, basically. 2 turrets remain. Let's see what they end up pulling off here. They're looking to Death Brush again. They just want all the kills they can get. And will they find it? Yavin is the one to face check. He should just throw down his Q here. The sweeper, yeah, just going a little bit wide. Now they step out, and they actually find Radicalist in the mid lane all alone. They pick him off. Panda teleporting in. Asuna is the focus, but Aurelion Soulflute is onto Chimera, and he will end up going down. That's the trade. The Tristana gets the shutdown. Yavin falls on the opposite side of the fight, but both the damage dealers are dead. And Aurelion Soulflute is still very much alive and kicking here. This Tristana hard carry. It's a hyper carry. This is something that we emphasized in Champ Select. How both these ADCs can snowball.
You saw Chimera tunnel a little bit on the Nami. Got a couple early crits and got Nami low, but Trist was just auto-attacking for free on
yeah, speaking of auto-attacking for free, this is Aurelion Soulflute once again going in infinite duress on to the Gragas to lock him down. The Triss is getting chased off for now, but she enters back into the fight. She's on to the Taric, focusing the damage. Now Wanderlust has gone and has fallen down rather, and that is all of the damage available. Aurelion Soulflute picked up the double kill in this small window, but the 3rd kill of the fight for himself. And this is a fantastic trend once more. Again, don't want to overhype it, but now it's 27-13. And it is shrinking 8k gold in the lead for the Bitter Onions. We could be in for a long haul here if they're not able to get another fight and close this game out.
Yeah, while the Bitter Onions do still have a significant lead, you really don't want to mess around and let Triss start getting shutdowns and double kills and whatever else, because she can hyper carry. And like we said, Team Circular Damage has the tools to nullify and shut down a Jinx in a fight. And if that happens, there's only one hyper carry left, and it's not on your team. So they're kind of playing with fire in some of these fights. Let's see if they can kind of bring it back and close this out cleanly, or if Circular Damage can make an epic comeback here.
Yeah, and I think one of the more telling things about that previous fight in particular is that Yavin died early still, right? There were a couple kills. Asuna, Yavin both fell fairly early on without having too much of an effect on the latter half of the fight. They did really their jobs to some extent, Yavin in particular getting 1 pick and Asuna making it 2 effectively, but they didn't have all their numbers. If they have all their numbers, there are way better fights for Circular Damage. There are times and instances where things can go way better, where they pick off a tank and everyone's still alive, and then they just smash that fight if they play it as well as they have been. So it is very concerning for Bitter Onions to be in a position like this, where they're hitting that cap. Chimera has hit that cap, the highest point that he will ever hit. You can't get stronger. Wanderlust overstepping, completely getting deleted. Aurelion Soulflute is able to pick up the first kill of this fight, and that's going to result after the turret goes down. That's a big cataclysm onto 4 members, and that's the pick onto Radicalist in the front line. That is Gragas falling, Jinx falling, everyone falling over 5-0 in the favor of Circular Damage, and they're going to take this right up the mid lane.
They got overzealous for that turret, and like you said, Wanderlust overstepping, getting taken out, and then Jarvan, I thought it was a little bit of an ambitious engage, but he got 3 people with that ulti, and obviously Triss does a lot of AoE damage, and got the Nether Grasp on the Jinx toward the tail end of the fight. She couldn't really do anything further at that point, and we're going to see middle inhibitor go down here.
Almost certainly here. 27-18 is now the updated score. Only 3k down actually make it. And yeah, that mid inhib will fall. And now the Baron is the focus. These supers have to be dealt with. Everybody's still just coming off the fountain. I don't know if they would definitely be able to rush it completely safely right now if they went for it. And they are slowing themselves down a little bit. They can at least get vision here and go back and be very safe.
They might be able to bait a fight if they stack 5 man in the Pixel Brush. and try to get a face check. Much like Magic Conk did earlier, kind of turned the tables on him.
Yeah, the biggest issue I would say with that is Red Team just being being able to be so much safer with their warding over the back of that pit, not having to put themselves in range of the Pixel Brush as long as they path intelligently. And that will just be the story of this dance, and they will go back, reset once more, and this Triss is still scaling up at the BF sword pickup now. That is a huge spike. Oh no, Weaver's Wall just thrown in the mid lane. That's not good. It's not the most useful in a fight, but it definitely can help you start one more favorably. So throwing any ulti at this point is definitely not what you want. You see the nerves seeping through the cracks here in the armor of Team Bitter Onions. And they will have to fall back, kite back, and try to reset, try to get a grasp of this game again.
Nami popped a panic locket there after a little bit of poke was coming through. We talked earlier about the team having a little kind of poke out before these fights with Talia and Gragas, and Jinx to a lesser extent with the fish chompers or fish bones, whatever the rockets are called. And Nami just gets about half HP and pops her locket. So if there's a fight in the next minute or so, that's not going to be available. So that's a pretty big cooldown.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the most effective items in the game. There's a reason that locket, even post-rework, has been an item that you see pretty much every game. But this is a big Cataclysm coming down from Panda onto 3 members, but there's no follow-up in the area. But it is enough to burn Radicalist Flash. Wanderlust TP'd up to help, and that is still half of the Talia's health taken out. They only have 1 Ocean Drake. It only can heal you for so much. They're still not...
I like that engage.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit overzealous in the end, but it still was effective nonetheless.
He didn't have a lot of team near him to follow up. I think they wanted to just kind of keep dancing around with that giant wave they had in turret. Now that they kind of reset, they get to clear it.
Ooh,
but I guess they just want to rush the Baron.
Already melting all the way down, and it is secured for Team Circular Damage, and that is the Gragas falling on the opposite side of the fight as well from all of the carries. They're now effectively alone. The Taric is taking the brunt of the damage in the front right now. Wanderlust is the focused. They will just be content with disengaging here, get these carries back home, back to base safely with these Baron buffs. Take that, try to do something with it in a moment. Let them walk into your trap.
A little bit of miscommunication there. It looked like 3 members wanted to just kind of take their Baron buffs and go home, with the safer, more conservative call for sure. And it looks like Frack and Panda wanted to re-engage and said, hey, we can fight this. But so he kind of dies, I don't want to say for free, but dies alone with a little bit of miscommunication. Let's see if Bitter Onion can get the Elder Drake as recompense here.
Yeah, they desperately need to get their hands on whatever they can, and if they get this dragon, then they have that Ghost Dragon again, but Wanderlust is just picked off from the front of the fight. Rem is now going to get taken down as well, and now Chimera all alone. Aurelian Soulfood has the momentum and makes it a triple kill. Now looking to go further back onto this Elder Dragon, take it all the way home. Circular Damage, they want to win this game, and they want it real bad.
Do we have any Nasher? Yeah, we do have. We have multiple Nasher buffs left. Okay. We have Nasher and Elder.
Yep.
Running it down mid. It's going to be hard to hold this one because we've got supers that are being Baron empowered as well.
Yeah, and Cataclysm dropped on the top side. Panda just able to solo out Radicalist, and even though he traded his life for it, he traded his life for the greater good. He traded his life for the victory, for the Nexus, for all of the kills. 30-24 in the end, bringing it all the way back. It was 25-9 about 10 minutes ago. What a game number 1 here. Circular Damage taking it all the way home.
That was quite the comeback. I gotta hand it to some playing to your outs, playing to your win conditions, and they did. They stayed calm despite having at one point, I think, 1 inhib up is the only building besides their Nexus, and they were able to come back. They have the ability to delete the Jinx, who's the hyper carry for Team Bitter Onions, and let their tryst clean it up, and that's exactly what they did. Aurelian Soul Food was going off in those late fights, and
Oh yeah.
he was able to capitalize on maybe some miscommunications in some of those fights, and really output a lot of damage, played really well, and they were able to take it home.
Okay, but on that note, guys, we will be throwing it to a short musical break while we set up for the next game, so do not go anywhere. We will be back shortly with game number 2 between Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. Don't go anywhere.
As I fell to the ocean floor, fading light through an open door, I saw myself rise with the water. They thought they could keep me down, hold that breath and watch me drown, but all they did was push me higher. We don't care what they say, we will be here all day, we'll stay till it's over, till the world's out of sight. We will stand, we will fight, it's not over till it's over. Through the nights in the rain, through the time and the pain, the stand will never fall.
No problem.
Alrighty, guys, welcome into Champ Select for game number 2. My name is still Blaster Boy, and I am still joined here by X-Line, and this is still Learning Fives, and both these teams are still, okay, I'm going to stop that now. These teams are Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. They have now swapped sides. They are red and blue, respectively. Game number 1 was explosive. It was very one-sided for the longest amount of time, but then a series of throws came through, and a series of oversteps and mistakes, and a whole bunch of factors came in, but in the end, we do see a bunch of adjustment bands coming through. X-Line, walk us through these.
So I want to start out by saying I appreciate you calling a throw. Just call it like it is. But yeah, we see both the 80 carries who popped off last game immediately getting first banned. Maokai, Sona, and Cho'Gath remain in ban prison. Janna was not actually banned this game, and we will see her picked as she was one of the early rotation picks along with Twitch. I know we're kind of ahead of what you see on the screen here, but those were the first picks for Team Bitter Onion, just securing that really strong bottom lane. And if you remember from last game, those were 2 of the first bans. So clearly picks that are prioritized by these teams, and for good reason. They're both very strong in the meta, like we talked about in the previous ban phase. Nami was secured again by Asuna Yu. As I mentioned, both supports are kind of Nami mains, so that makes sense. Although, when Janna's available, it's hard to pass that up in this meta right now with her being as strong as she is. We do see the Warwick coming through again. Magic Conk is very comfortable, as we saw last game. Casted games with him previously this session. He enjoys Warwick a lot, but we do have a little bit of a change with Lee Sin coming out from Shield Sin this game on the other side. So it'll be interesting to see how those 2 early pressure junglers interact.
Yeah, and very similar to last game, although there are some different bans this time. Both the ADCs were picked really early. Twitch first picked, Misfortune second picked. So we saw those picks come through. They were hugely important last time, and we see similar priority with different champions this time around. And we see 2 pretty polarizingly different champions here, I feel, in Twitch and Misfortune. They're not both hyper carries this time at the very least.
Yeah, there's a little bit more of an AoE comp going on with Team Circular Damage this game, with Galio, who obviously has the AoE knockup. If you can get a taunt going into Misfortune ulti, that can just absolutely shred a team. They still do obviously have incredible potential with the 2 ults from Malzahar and Warwick. That's still going to be a really strong synergy. But they do have a little bit more team fight centric team this time. Team Bitter Onions has a little bit of a mixed bag. Again, Mordekaiser is kind of hard to place in terms of what he does. We did see him team fight pretty well last game. Radicalist clearly comfortable on Talia, so running back that same mid lane matchup there. But Twitch and Janna, obviously incredible team fighters. Janna's really good at peeling and disengaging. Lee Sin, a really good early game pressure jungler like we talked about, but in the late game, even if he's behind and falling off, he can still disengage really well with his ult. And if Shilson's got the mechanics, can even get an insect off to get an engage. But oftentimes we see at lower elos are more of a question of you thought about whether or not you could, and you didn't think about whether or not you should. So hopefully we don't see him insecting in a Galio team and sets up a Misfortune ult or something along those lines. But that is something you see sometimes in lower elos. We'll see if he's judicious with the use of sec if he chooses to go that way.
Yeah, guys, we will have to see how these teams stack up in this game. I feel like they were pretty much neck and neck in the last one, with trading blows ultimately in the end, with one team pulling really far ahead in one phase and then the other team pulling really far ahead in the other phase. And it'll be interesting to see if they go really even this time, if it's still an early game stomp. There's a lot of different things that could happen. But all these are good points. none of what we said matters until we see how it unfolds on the Rift, guys. So we will be throwing it over to a musical break, and we will be back when we are loaded up onto the Rift for game number 2 out of 2 between, once again, Team Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are loaded up and ready to go on to the Rift for game number 2 between Circular Damage and the Bitter Onions. I am still Blaster Boy. I'm still joined here by X-Line, and we are once again seeing these teams roll out. And I will be interested to see what they do here. No 5 stacks for the Bitter Onions quite this time.
Yeah, it looks like they're both content to kind of just fan out and get a little early. I'm not a huge fan of the word kind of over the. I would have liked to see if they could get like see if they're doing a Raptor start, and then you could put another one on start, Raptor start. If you don't see them either of those places, probably red buff. You know, it's not the worst thing just to get, you know, general idea of where where people are, and if you don't want to face check. So I think it'll be interesting to see how bottom lane plays out.
Yeah.
Something we didn't really touch on in the champions. Lane. We have a couple of new champions here. The only one that was the same from the previous Nami. I think Nami and Misfortune should have the advantage lane. Jenna is not really a champion who's winning lane. Neither is Twitch really. Twitch is more of a late game champion, and Jenna's mostly trying to make it out of lane even or not very behind, just to kind of outscale. So she's looking to either go even or lose gracefully.
Oh,
and
no.
Twitch stole red buff.
I've seen this one before from my personal experiences with Twitch and solo queue sometimes. Really unfortunate situation to be in. Hopefully the league can bounce back, and man, it's a shame that the Twitch got the Janna instead of the Nami, because he's not really going to be able to take a huge amount of advantage of that now. If he had a bit more of a playmaking support, maybe it wouldn't be all that bad. You know, I could see kills definitely coming through with like a Thresh or something, but Janna is going to be really rough. And now the blue buff is just barely smited by Shil Sin. That was...
Did he even smite? I thought he just kicked it.
He did smite it. He got really close to kicking it mid-auto, but...
I thought he just walked up and auto-attacked it for the last hit on 2 HP. That would have been the cheekiest thing imaginable.
Oh, man. Yeah, that would have been really clutch, but still clutch nonetheless, and that is massive for him because he was almost 4-buffed this game. That would have been game-breaking. That would have been game-breaking for this jungler.
So that's a lot of wasted time for work here, and they also know where he is. So they know that he's top-centric right now.
Yep.
Probably not going to matter too much because, like you said, Twitch isn't going to be able to make a lot of even with the red buff with a Janna support.
Yeah.
Janna's really good at disengaging and peeling and keeping him safe, but she doesn't really have a lot of good tools to engage aggressively.
Yeah, and now we will see an engage on the top side as this Lee Sin of Shil Sin is coming in. There's the cripple and resonating strike, sonic wave, everything coming through. And that's a lot of damage onto Panda. No flash burned, but still going to chunk him down. Pop both of his potions, actually. They were already gone, and he's going to have to go back to base now.
So something I'm going to be watching for in later... You saw him ward hop behind and get the cripple down. I don't know that it really mattered this situation, but he probably didn't need the ward hop. He probably could have just walked forward. Because he was already walking towards the Galio, and then if you do that, you save both your gap closers with your ward hop and your kick. Here he's action in mid.
Oh, Yavin going to take an absolute beating, and that is not going to be the death. Radicalist canceled the last auto.
Canceled his auto.
Oh. I'm not sure if he had that on the Voidling or if he had that on the Malzahar. I think he could have had that kill if he had kept going for it, but nonetheless, unfortunate.
Like you said, he canceled the auto and then clicked away, and by that point, it to go back and get the extra auto.
Yeah, it was a fight of inches there for sure.
But just to finish up on that point with Lee again really quickly, he's obviously not going to dive this early in the game.
Yeah.
Later in the game, saving 2 gap closers is super huge because, obviously Galio has 1 with his flash. So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, it's not really that punishing there, but could be later if he gap closes in with his ward hop when he can just walk behind him.
Yeah, will definitely be something to look out for right now in this bottom lane, though. I want to touch on that real quick. The red buff is gone, and wouldn't you know it, no kills came through for Chimera, unfortunately. So that didn't end up working out the worst as bad as it could have for Lee. He was able to pick up the pieces pretty well, and now actually even ahead of Magic Conk in farm here, which is very surprising because he was down 17-7 before when he went for that gank and then immediate recall after. So looking okay for Shil Sin in the end, in spite of that red buff being stolen. It's just a shame that it wasn't able to be used very effectively down bottom, but that's just generally how it is. Unless you're deliberately trying to cheese, you're probably not going to get too much use out of it.
So Misfortune going for the really early back because she prioritizes the serrated Dirk. Looks like she's going for a lethality build, which is very common with Misfortunes.
Oh, well, Shield Sin coming into the mid lane. That is everything landing onto Yavin once more. He has no flash, and they're looking for this dive, but nobody really wants to commit. There is no flash still for Radiclus, so he's not completely comfortable with going for that kill.
I didn't actually see the start of that gank, so I'm going to go back and watch that just to see how the least we talked about. And he does ward hop in.
Yep. Again,
So
you taking
might
advantage.
Might have been able to get the kill there if he'd saved that second gap closer.
Yeah, potentially.
A little unfortunate.
Yeah, again, just inches once more in these fights. Wanderlust holding his own significantly better this game versus Panda than he did last. But Panda's not doing all that bad either. Neither of them are really winning or losing outright on these trades. They're just kind of going even, which is really what you should expect from two AP tanks that will be, and one of them is going to be building a lot of MR. So, not too unexpected from a Mord Galio matchup necessarily, but still kind of interesting to see considering how one-sided a lot of the trades were in the last game with Wanderlust.
Yeah, I do like the Galio pick this game instead of the Jarvan. Instead of trying, Jarvan's obviously much better when he's ahead and can. Instead of trying to force plays in the top lane, it looks like they're just going the farm it out approach and not feeding into diving the Malzahar and letting him, turn around the plays and then laugh at you and Portuguese and everything like that. So, sticking an MR tank like Galio said, who's going to be stacking MR to get the bonus AP from the passive, I think a really strong play there, and just let Magic Comp focus on the bottom half of the map and not worry too much about the top.
Yeah, it will definitely be something interesting to keep an eye on with the junglers, how they adjust in these games. But Shilson, he got his red this time. He's going to get his blue this time, all alone. So, a much better start on the second rotation for him already. And again, keeping pace in CS. Not quite ahead this time, but keeping up pretty effectively. And he needs to be able to keep that going since he hasn't gotten a lot of money out of these ganks quite yet. But now we might see Magic Conk get a bit of money for himself. That is the Flash Fear Everything. Nethergrass, Infinite Duress thrown down onto Radiclus, and that is the first kill of the game. And that goes over to Magic Conk.
Before that first blood, they were actually dead even in gold. You can kind of see that Lee's obviously catching this wave, but after that kill, Warwick is like almost exactly 400 ahead of him. So Lee's only about probably 300, 200 behind after catching that wave and doing these Raptors here, so we're seeing Raptors as well. So not that far behind from Twitch stealing the red buff early. It did help Twitch get a back with the F Sword, which is his preferred back. So it'll be interesting to see how that matches up with the serrated Dirk from Misfortune.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully some trades are coming through in that bottom lane, but it's hard to tell really with so much shielding and sustain from both of these supports. There's not really much of anything that's going to have a huge impact on either of these ADCs or supports outside of their health, outside of their mana bars rather, as their health will be topped off for most of the time. Really effective wave clearing here in the mid lane from Radiclus, and that's what we've been dipping into the lane for a moment to see over and over. He's just kind of pushed the turret, trying to hold his own, and we're seeing that come through a little bit here in the numbers. He's down 13 CS roughly, give or take a couple here or there. And that is not a good place to be, especially considering I believe he still had a CS lead last game in this exact same matchup.
Yeah, the touching back on the point with the bottom lane being definitely in Janna in Twitch's favor, because they just want to kind of farm and scale up.
Whoa. Flash in the mid from Yavin. A little bit of a panic move there, I feel.
It looks like we are going to see an uncontested draft.
Yep.
And I think they just don't have vision, and they're not really keen to walk up and get vision.
Yeah, attempted Twitch gank in the mid lane, but yeah, that dragon does go down. Mountain Drake first over to the Bitter Onions this time. So they're going to be very happy with that.
Looks like Twitch is just going to recall and pick up a Zeal. Imagine, yeah. Zeal and Control Ward, really strong buy. I would expect he's probably just going to do the standard BF into Renan's Rush.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Misfortune is probably going for the Duskblade first.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell with that since Ghostblade has the exact same recipe, but yeah, very likely the Duskblade for sure. I feel like that is probably the better of the two right now.
It's certainly more common. Once they changed it to Duskblade being more lethality heavy, I don't think too many 80 carries rush the Ghostblade. It's more of like a Talon mid kind of rush. But it's certainly possible. I think the Duskblade. Yeah, we do see the Duskblade coming through the game. So
yeah, so more damage than the Ghostblade would offer, even just slightly, is going to be much more effective for what this Misfortune wants, since her hits are slow and heavy, relatively slow. She does want to hit as hard as possible whenever she can, and well, there it is. That's the first hit. That is the power of that Duskblade. That is going to continue throughout this game. Chimera taking a beating, losing half of his health already. In this top lane, we see a little bit of trading back and forth. Magic Conch looking for that gank, but not quite going to be able to find it.
we do see Warwick starting to pull ahead slightly in gold. He does power farm a little bit better than Lee Sin. Lee obviously known for his ability to clear healthily and then gank, but not really known as someone who is quickly. So
yeah, he is getting there. Ooh, Chimera taking so much damage from this Misfortune. The bullet time is available if they want to throw it down, and there it is, sure enough. That pulls the Monsoon and the Summoner heal from this duo lane, and Janna still almost dies through all of that, thanks to that bullet time damage.
Yeah, Duskblade bullet time does a significant amount of damage, but
oh, she'll sin
still
into the mid lane. That's the Warthog once again. The Dragon's Rage in of Yavin into Radiclus, and it is the delivery kill though. In the end, that is a trade back for Yavin. Exactly what he wanted to see, exactly what he needed. A little bit unfortunate for Shilson that they weren't able to clean that up a little bit more quickly, but still a solid gank nonetheless, I feel.
In that situation, I actually think the Warthog is just because you want to get in position as quickly as possible to get the CC from the Dragon's Rage, follow it up into the kick, into the Talia damage. So in that situation, it was warranted and it pays off. Although, like you said, we do get the return kill from
Magic Conch flying over the shoulder of Wanderlust, and he's going to be able to pick up that kill, and now he has a Warwick of his own. The tables have turned on to Panda, and he's going to be running away here. A little bit slowed up, but no kill will end up coming through in the end. Man, if that Infinite Duress had just landed onto Wanderlust, that would have been a completely different fight. Really close set of fights so far overall in this game. Really, there have been a lot of near kills and near deaths thus far.
It's the classic NA unlucky there. The Galio though says, I'm a rock, I'm not scared of your pet wolf, so just kind of smacks him in the face a couple times. Ghost goes away. Galio clears out the wave, and looking to recall here. He's already got the missile mass. I guess he might be finishing up Boots here. Yeah, finishing up Tabbies. Tabbies is an interesting choice. I think you could go Treads just because of the double AP comp in the solo lanes, but Tabbies is clearly a nod to the power of the Twitch as well as Zen, but mostly because of the Twitch, and I can't say it's wrong.
Oh, there is a flash kill from Yavin, and that's what he was looking for all last game, but was just slightly... He's just so close to being able to find it, never quite being able to get there. He's figured out this time. He went Morellonomicon this game. He's got that solo kill potential.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, I actually forgot about the Rod of Ages from last. If he had higher...
I have to hold that thought for a moment as Shilsin looking for this kill, and that is the Dragon Rays into Resonating Strike. The riskiest way that you can thread that combo, but he does pull it off in the end.
Pretty clean. Well, the result was clean, so that's all that counts, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if he'd gotten Morellonomicon last game, maybe with the Rod of Ages would have been avoided. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of snowball. I mean, obviously that death was unfortunate, but the 3 kill participation and the 30 CS lead in mid lane. So.
Yep. Chimera looking for a bit of damage onto Asuna down in the bottom lane here. That is the spray and pray pop. Now Asuna, flash, Aurelian Soul Foods heal, Radical's coming down, and there is the seismic shove and everything thrown down. Monsoon just to cancel the bullet time, and that is good enough. Magic Conk going in with the infinite duress, but he is going to die, unfortunately. I was trying to think of something clever to say there, but it completely slipped my mind. A near death in the top lane from Panda as he is hit with that Mordekaiser ultimate, but he will not quite be falling in the end. The push continues onto this turret down bottom.
We saw a super aggressive flash forward from Chimera, and he is getting...
Oh, Chimera, speaking of super aggressive, now getting caught out with another grasp, and as Ignite thrown down onto Rem, but everybody will escape in the end.
I think that was just Malzahar trying to protect the turret, but they're still going to get this dragon here. But I do want to call out the Janna Monsoon immediately interrupting the bullet time.
Yeah.
This fight. Super clutch. The really aggressive flash from Twitch was immediately followed up by the Sin and the Talia roaming in. So not as big a sin as it initially appeared when you saw him flashing in with like no kill potential on the Nami. Nami did her best to disengage, even though we sent Q, I think, with a creep, and then he immediately got knocked out from the. It just wasn't enough with the amount of people they brought down there.
Yep.
Somebody would say they brought enough bad guys.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. As long as you bring enough stuff to throw at the wall, something will stick eventually, and it doesn't matter how much that wall tries to juke you. Sometimes a 4-man gank is a 4-man gank. So a little bit of a rough time for bottom lane, not unheard of for those poor ADCs and supports though. Now Asuna greeting for the turret here. I don't know if that was the right call in any world. But now they're looking to make it a little bit more. Aurelian Soul Food, this is a focus, and Runon's completed, and oh man, what a nasty combo there. Ward hop kick into the Monsoon, back into the wall. But first turret still goes down for Yavin anyway, so the gold goes over to circular damage regardless.
That's what makes the play so egregious, is he didn't need to... was pushing so hard in mid. The only competition for First Blood turret was his own teammate. As long as, you know, they just back up safely there, they're not at risk of losing it in bottom lane, which is the only one that's low enough for them to lose. So, yeah, I don't agree with that. I agree with you that was not the correct play. Definitely something to watch in the bot review.
Blue buff stolen away by Magic Conk and Yavin on the top side of the map as so many numbers were just thrown bottom and the Talia has gone back. Now there's a big push up top with that mid turret down. They are very comfortable with going for this kill, going for this dive. They brought all the CC. Where's the kitchen sink? They're going to pull it out and throw it at him too eventually. If that combo was not enough, and now this turret will fall as well. And we will not see a Rift Herald once again this game. I don't think Chimera really wants to fight. Yeah,
that is ambitious, Chimera. Maybe if that turret was still, you could try to do something sneaky there.
Maybe,
or
yeah.
if Wanderlust hadn't tried to hold the turret 1v3. Little ambitious, and he thinks better of it and back. And maybe at the behest of his Janna saying, you need to back up. We do see, as we mentioned, Janna infamously being one of the better Arden to be.
Yep.
And again, both supports taking coin because that item's also. Once Janna gets Arden Sensor, whoever her AD carry is turns into a real terror, assuming it's one that can make use of the attack speed. Jin's a little questionable with it, but
Yes.
Twitch, obviously a hyper carry that really enjoys. Honestly, Janna should just basically be staying on Twitch's hip pocket at this point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That item is super strong right now,
Yeah.
and any AD carry turns into a terror.
Yeah, I mean, what was that math that was on Reddit a couple weeks ago? I'm forgetting the exact number, but it's something like nearing 5,000 gold in effective stats when you shield an ADC with Ardent Sensor right now as Janna. It's just disgusting. You get so much money in stats with that Ardent Sensor buff. It's so effective. It's so powerful. And I'm honestly, like, I feel... Oh, whoa, hang on, hold that thought. That's... Focus on Yavin, not on me, and, well, everybody just flashes away from that. Actually, only Rem in the end. But it is enough for both of them to escape the Nether's grasp. They will get out of this
Yavin
game.
wanted to flash Nether's grasp Twitch, and...
Yep. Whoa, that's a great combo from Shilsin, but that's not going to be enough as Chimera falls to the bullet time in the back, and now this is the dive down bottom as well. Wonderlust trying to hold the turret 1v2, but the turret no longer exists, and that is the death down bottom. Yavin, yes, he dies, but that is traded for 3, a turret, and now they're looking for even more.
So Remgrand's waifu had enough peel to protect his waifu Twitch from the flash Nethergrasp attempt by Yavin. Not enough to protect him from the immediate follow-up bullet time. Little unfortunate that they, after birding all of their peel and distance, kind of got into a fight there where Twitch was vulnerable. Twitch is obviously a significant portion of...
Yeah, what a crazy fight. I mean, that went in the favor of Circular Damage off the back of the Bitter Onions kicking their mid laner into the enemy team. And that is just not something you see every day, that is for certain. But 30 seconds on this dragon. There's already been 2 this game. We hop over to the pit. We see us a Mountain Drake coming up. So if it's a second Mountain Drake going over to the Bitter Onion, then that is huge. Because especially with the Twitch, if they are allowed to even look at this Baron for about 20 to 30 seconds, it will guaranteed be dead. Because 2 Mountain Drakes trivializes the Baron to a ridiculous degree.
They might not even need that long with Janna shielding him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Shilsin is going to follow everything thrown at him. Once again, that's the deadly combo, the deadly duo of Yavin and Magic Conch, but we're looking at a potential Baron attempt here on the opposite side. They want to trade this back. They know the focus is on the dragon, and they know the vision isn't there. They have no clue.
Like we're saying, like it's not even going to take 20 seconds, and this but after smite. Twitch with Ardent's just going to shred that, and you got Mordecai, so you can tank it fairly easily while outputting more DPS. And Leah's obviously not a triple amount of DPS to put on there, so just a really unfortunate trade for Team Circular Damage. I don't know if they just didn't think Baron was a threat, or
I don't think it's unreasonable when you take the enemy's jungler off the map. I don't know where they thought that they were, though. That's the thing. They weren't anywhere near the dragon. So, but just, you know, you think it would be a process of deduction. Like, okay, well, he was the only one around here, obviously. So we should be seeing them scattering to clear lanes, or they're going back to base, or they're on Baron right now. And the Baron is a threat. We mentioned it around this time last game, around 26 minutes last game. Actually, we talked about how the Baron was a big threat at that point. You'd think that with that sort of thing in mind, that they would at least consider the Baron. They would at least start moving over there after they clear the mid wave, after they take the dragon. Maybe a question mark ping like, hey, we don't know where they are. They could be over here.
And credit to Team Onion here with the vision control. We got 2 control wards, and we got multiple vision wards around the area. If you talk to Team Circular Damage's vision. They don't have any vision around the Baron. The closest they have is that ward of side brush next to mid lanes. They had no idea it was being taken. Like you said, they should be able to use deductive reasoning to assume they're probably on that side of the map and think, hey, maybe we should get vision on the Baron here. But again, another learning point to take away from Bo2 in this replay. Can't leave Baron unguarded for that long. Team that has the ability that you mentioned to take it that quickly at this stage in the game. There's just a little bit of tunnel vision on that dragon, and kudos to Team Bitter Onion to just say, hey, let's trade that Drake that we can't contest and just get this free Baron. Let's see what they do with it.
Yeah, hopefully they can get something for their sake, since they have gotten picked a couple times now, and they have a little bit of a mountain to climb, at least a steep hill at 3,000 gold in the gutter right now. That's a tidal wave thrown out really for nothing from Asuna, so they're going to have to be a little bit careful about that. That's a big portion of their disengage and follow-up engage now missing. And I mean, even at primary, in some instances, although that's not really favorable when you have somebody like that Malzahar and like this Warwick, you don't really want to throw Tidal Wave out as your starting move. It's just so slow compared to other things that are instant. The Siege not going too hot for either of these teams right now, though. The wave clear is pretty solid, but everybody's taking poke back and forth. Nothing's really getting done. Nobody's being productive, and these sideways, importantly, are not being managed right now by the Bitter Onions.
Malzahar to slow push, or to answer this slow push. And he could easily take this tier 1 and pressure tier 2. There's just a stalemate ARAM in mid lane right now. In this ELO in NA solo queue, anyone watching this has probably experienced this before if you play at this ELO. Not the way you want to use Baron. If you don't have the ability to effectively siege a turret or poke the other team out or dive and force a team fight, then you need to be managing those side waves and kind of get a split going, as long as you can do so safely and not get counter-engaged when you send people away. We saw Galio go to bottom and pick up a second ago, so at the very least, you should be able to send one more to answer on the opposite side of the map and have a 4v4 safely in mid. But
yeah,
just a little bit of wave mismanagement here.
Definitely agree. Yeah, actually, if we don't have a fight here, I have a question for you. Actually, obviously, it wouldn't help their range all that much, but I feel like, well, never mind. Here's the fight coming through. Shilsin going to get exploded, and that's a knockup. Rem is going to get deleted in the front line, and now Twitch is caught and dead. Wanderlust is one of the last men standing, as Radicalist is actually the last man alive, running for his life, running for the hills, building hills as he goes, even being Talia. And, well, going to throw down that wall. I'm not sure how effective it's going to be in the end, as they can just kind of walk around it. They don't really need the minions anyway. And that's going to be a tier 2.
About as effective as the Maginot line.
Now,
they just walk right around that.
yeah, the idea was there. we see the folly of trying to siege without a siege. You don't play to your team's composition there, you can get really punished. So they got really aggressive trying to take that mid tier 1, and they said, well, we're just going to take it because we have Baron. We're just going to siege this hard. And Team Circular Damage just said, well, we're going to hard engage on you and punish you for it, and we're not going to lose anybody. So we're going to take your mid tier 2, we're going to take your mid inhibitor turret, take your mid inhibitor. Not the way you want to use Baron. That's like a reverse power play on Baron. So, like we said, a little bit of wave mismanagement. I think they could have probably maybe even gone with like a 1-3-1 and had both side lanes pushing with Baron and just have 3 people holding in mid, because they could have even fallen back to their mid tier 2. It's not like they had a mid tier 1 they had to protect there. And just not get engaged on, which again, we mentioned Janna has amazing disengage. Twitch can wave clear with Renons if need be. Honestly, you could just send your solos to the side lanes and just let with Baron. But alas, that's not what happened. We did see really good hard engage from Team Circular Damage. They got some objectives off of it, so
They have a significant lead now with about 5K gold. Let's see how they utilize that.
As now this dragon respawns once more, and this is now the second ocean of the game. So I'm sensing a pattern here: mountain, ocean, and so far so good for circular damage to be melting this down. They've got it pretty much secure, it feels like, but Shilsin is in position to steal it away, and that is an interesting flash in from Rem. As now here's the engage on the backline. Chimera now isolated by this Galio. His team falls back to help him out. Panda diving in, not quite able to finish off Wonderlust though, and now there is the tidal wave to make this follow-up engage happen. Chimera now caught in the front line. Aurelian Soulfood walking up. He is going to one-shot him from half health, and everyone else has already fallen. Shilsin now the last blind man alive.
That should be game.
And I
don't think he can 1v5 against especially with the Elder buff.
Yeah,
they're just too strong to fight right now.
Especially not without his ultimate. And yeah, now Nexus turret number 1 and now 2 falls. That was a bit of an interesting flash from Rem to kick that whole thing off, but regardless of how we got there, that Nexus is now down, and a decisive, in the end, at least 2-0 from the Bitter Onions. What a crazy pair of games.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to necessarily call game 2 back from the Bitter Onions there, because I mean they did give up the Baron, but they were able to counter engage with the Baron and turn that Baron into their own power.
Yeah.
And then obviously take the Elder and leverage that into the victory there. So a little bit of a blunder giving away the Baron quite nicely. I thought they played that really well, but of course, as we mentioned, still plenty of points to take away from the replay and the VOD review from this Learning Fives match here. So really well, I shouldn't say really well played by both teams, a lot of learning, but hard fought by both teams. And I don't want to trash on them too much, because I mean they played well, but there's obviously some things that they can improve on, and I'm sure their coaches will be going over with them. So.
Oh man, yeah, what a series, guys. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Real quickly, I have been Blaster Boy, joined here by X-Line, wading through those crazy games for us. And with that, that's going to be it for the Learning 5 stream tonight. If you did enjoy the stream, go ahead and hit that follow button up in the top right-hand corner if you would like to keep up with the Learning 5s program when our show matches go live. We do run them every single weekend, so we'll be back on here the same time, same place tomorrow night, and also again on Sunday night, and then again for the next 2 weeks at the very least with something or other on the weekend. If you want to get connected with the Learning 5s community, please check out our Discord or Twitter, which is linked below, and you can find most of our major announcements on our Twitter, and absolutely everything is announced on our Discord. That is our main hub, so if you have any questions or anything like that, that is the place to be. That's where all the cool kids hang out too, including myself and X-Line here. So, but with all of that said, guys, once again, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching and riding this wild ride with us, and we will see you guys back here once again tomorrow night.
Have a great evening, guys.